Hello and welcome to Talk Time. My guest today is one of India's best-known economists, Dr. Surjit Bhalla, until recently member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. Dr. Bhalla has quit the EAC to join a leading media group as consulting editor and is currently giving finishing touches to his new book, Citizen Raj, Indian Elections from 1952 to 2019. Dr. Surjit Bhalla, welcome to my show.
My pleasure.
Dr. Bhalla, what worries you the most today, the politics in this country or the economy?
You know, actually, of the two, certainly the politics. The economy, I think, is doing rather well. It can obviously do a lot better. Any economist feels that an economy can do better. But in my case, and in India's case, there's so much that we've done wrong.
So much that we have done wrong. Okay.
Yeah. That is very easy, I think, to accelerate the growth path. All it needs is political will to implement what are easily the most well-known policies around the world.
See, Dr. Bhalla, you are among the few economists. You have worked for Dr. Manmohan Singh. You had been in the Economic Advisory Council of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. My question is, when you joined the EAC, say about a year back, maybe in September, October 2017, the growth rate was about 5%, 5.5%. Today it is about 7.5%. Our inflation rate is fixed at some 4 to 4.5%. So are you a happy man?
No. Look, absolutely. The inflation rate is actually lower than that.
4%.
It's between 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And the growth rate is at 7.5%. But you know, one should look at the potential growth rate to evaluate anybody, to evaluate any economy.
Yeah.
So in other words, just a few years back, Greece was growing at -4%, and the Europeans could feel good when we had the crisis or even beyond the crisis. That listen, we are growing at 1%. It doesn't mean they're doing much better.
Yeah.
So it is your potential, and our potential is easily between 8 to 9% GDP growth that we can do with the existing policies, but with some additional clarity as well as implementation.
So what are some of these? When you say that provided there is political will, India can grow, you're talking about the potential, a country of 1.2 billion plus people. So what are some of the things that you're saying that an ideal growth rate will be 8 to 9%? Yeah. So what do you do? What do we do to achieve that?
There are 2 or 3 policies that, again, we can pick off the rack. This is, again, we don't have to do rocket science, new research.
Right.
One which I've been saying for a long time, for the last 15 years, we have a very repressive financial system. Our interest rates, real interest rates, are too high, and we need to reduce them. So, for example, right now, our real interest rate is something like close to 4%, which is the highest in the world. Now, you know, everywhere you go in the world, the entire talk about the economy is on the interest rate. Whether you go to the US, whether you go to China, whether you go to anywhere else, except in a country called India.
This brings me to the question.
Yeah.
You're talking about the critical issue of interest rate.
Yeah.
What happens if you cut the interest rate? Do you think the value of the rupee goes up?
I think.
Do you think our rupee becomes stronger automatically?
Yes. I think, you know, this is a controversial, and the value of the rupee, like the value of the oil, exchange rates and the price of oil, everybody has their own view, and everybody is right any one day of the year and wrong the rest of the time.
Right.
But the point is, what does the value of the rupee depend on? The value of the rupee depends on how much investment gains do the foreigners feel. After all, it's a traded commodity. You and I don't worry about the value of the rupee for internal trade.
Right.
But for external trade, it's very important. External investments is very important. So I will invest in an economy that is growing fast. FDI, wherever you look in the world, is the FDI that is the major issue, and including portfolio flows, which you invest in Indian companies or Chinese companies, etc. So if I reduce interest rates and the growth rate goes up, then obviously I'm making more profits. Whether you're a domestic person or whether you're an international person, you're making more profits. So you want to buy those assets. You want to buy Indian assets. And buying Indian assets means the value of the rupee goes up.
I'm coming to my question. Now, once again, I'm asking this question: what are the three top things that needs to be done to achieve a 9% growth rate in a country like India? Because we have been extremely, as you said, the inflation rate 3 to 4%. We are stuck at 7% growth rate. Look at the Chinese. 30 years ago, the economy was almost at par. And today, where are the Chinese? And where are we? Okay. So what's going on?
So there are two major questions that you've weaved together in that. I'll do the first one as to what are the policies needed. Then we can go into the comparison with China. So one major policy initiative that we haven't taken, and we had the big economic reforms in 1991, and those were mostly oriented to trade, import taxes, import tariffs, and delicensing, so allowing people to have their own firms. No political leader, except I think Mr. Modi is beginning to make a start in that, has tried to reform agriculture. We have the most antiquated, corrupt system in agriculture. We have the PDS, the procurement system of the government, where the government buys the grain from the farmer, stores it in a place, sends it to the ration shop, and half the food that the Food Corporation of India, half the food that it says is distributed to the people does not reach anybody, does not reach you.
So you're talking about the PDS system, public distribution system.
So now this has, so first of all, there's huge corruption. And it's today the corruption is maybe 100,000 crores in corruption in the PDS system. But what is the other impact that it has? The other impact that it has is it completely distorts the agricultural market. Second, we have in our agricultural market the mandis, where the agricultural prices mandi commission, or the produce marketing commission, where a farmer can only sell through the mandis. So you can't, you're a farmer over here, you can't sell to somebody in Delhi, you can't sell to somebody else, you have to go through the mandis. Now, who benefits from the mandis?
Middleman.
The middleman benefits. And politicians.
Absolutely.
So, why would we change that? So, allows farmers to sell to whoever they want to. That's a very simple thing. Eliminate the PDS system and replace it with direct benefit transfers, which this government is trying to do. And suddenly, agriculture is transformed. So, people, now, this will not mean that all farmers will be rich. This will not mean that our agricultural growth rate will go up.
What you are essentially, what you are, Dr. Bhalla, what you are essentially saying is that there are policy changes needed, and those policies needs to be enforced. But my question is, the Modi government came to power in 2014 on the plank of battling corruption. That was the major plank.
As well as Sabka Saath,
Sabka Vikas.
So
but
as well as
my
growth.
question is, my question to you, okay, we have seen major reforms, the note ban, GST, and some other issues. These are some of the major reforms of the Modi government. Now, you have been an ardent supporter of the demonetization. You think there was nothing wrong in it. It was an excellent move to tackle black money. And you have almost stuck your neck out by saying, because a lot of your colleagues and peers are absolutely, and friends are absolutely mad. They're saying that this was one of the most ridiculous kind of a policy that any government, that too in a country like India, where there is so much of poverty, there's so much of small farmers, there's so much of unorganized business going around. So why do you support a move like demonetization? You continue to do so even today.
For a very simple reason. There was a great American movie, Show Me the Money. So my study of economics always has been, show me the evidence. Now, it is absolutely clear that demonetization hurt the economy in the short run, and we need to look at how much did it hurt. And when demonetization happened, there were all these economists, etc., most of them with the political opposition, who said that Indian GDP growth rate will fall from 7% to 3.5%, will fall by half. Now, and one of the major critics of that was Geeta Gopinath, who's the chief economist now, at the IMF. So she was one of the leading economists, and she even said there isn't a single macroeconomist who supports demonetization. Or I think she said there's not even a single good macroeconomist that supports it. So therefore, all of us, all few of us who supported demonetization were bad macroeconomists. Now she has come out with a report with 3 co-authors saying the entire impact of demonetization on the economy for 1 quarter was 2%. For 1 quarter. For the year, it was about 0.4, 0.5%. So, show me, as I said, so the big benefit of demonetization, and these are the people who do a simple test. You want to find out who's opposed to demonetization. You identify people who are now paying more taxes than they did before.
Now, we will not talk about that because I have to ask you several other questions because the people who are upset with demonetization will be about 30 to 40% people who pay taxes or those people who do not pay taxes. It's not the salaried class is not just impacted. Do you agree with this or not?
Absolutely. Salaried class is not at all.
Salaried class is just not bothered. It is the people who pay taxes or the people who do not.
Who evade taxes. Not the people who pay taxes.
Absolutely. By do not means some of them evade as well. A lot of them evade actually. Now, I'll have to go for a break, but before that, Dr. Bhalla, you are out of the system in the meaning that you are no longer in the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Committee. You are an independent person now. My question is this, a very simple question. Is it too utopian an idea to think of India as a cashless economy? Because that was what it was touted to be. But that is never the case, isn't it? One set of note is being replaced by another.
So, well,
you can't keep on changing the notes every time and come up with multicolored currency notes.
Very good question. And very briefly, and then we can continue after, that this was the same notion. One of the other policies that we did not do, which hurt our health, which hurt our education, which affected stunting, etc., was open defecation. And we never thought that this policy could be changed because it was a habit. And it was very bad for women and very bad for the environment in terms of health, stunting, wasting. Now look at how much progress has happened.
So what is the moral of the story?
The moral of the story, the bottom line, is that things that we think are very, very difficult and therefore we don't do them is not correct.
So if you have the will, you can do it. That is the moral of the story. On that note, we shall go for a short break now. Stay on. We'll be right back with more conversation with Dr. Bhalla. Welcome back. I am in conversation with economist Dr. Surjit Bhalla. Dr. Bhalla, I mean, you see, you are writing your new book, Citizen Raj, Indian Elections from 1952 to 2019. I have to ask you this question. We are at a very critical time when we are talking. We are just a couple of days, 90 days away, or maybe even less, to the general elections. My question is, 1952 to now, what are the 3 major transformations, in your view, have taken place in the Indian electoral system, whether it is the voting behavior, whether it is government formations, whether it is the very nature of governance in this country?
This is a hot topic, but I'll just give you 2 views that are prevalent. And one dominant view in India and amongst Indian political scientists, amongst Indian experts, amongst Indian politicians is that caste matters. So you vote according to your caste. That is, if I am scheduled caste, I'm a Harijan, I'm OBC, I'm a Yadav, I'm a Patel, I'm a Jat, that I vote according to my caste.
Do you vote according to your caste, or you are made to vote according to your caste
by
the politicians?
Neither. So I'll just give you one simple example as to why, empirical example, that people don't vote according to the caste and have never really voted according to their caste.
So you are shattering that myth.
Yes. And I'll give you one simple way. And you rightly said there have been so many changes, so many changes of government. We've had coalition governments, we've had Congress governments, we've had BJP governments, we have alliances, we have NDA, UPA, 1, 2, etc. Okay? This at the national level, at the local level, we've got umpteen number of parties.
Yeah.
And all have been elected and thrown out. Did the caste in any state change? The caste composition change? The Jat stayed the same proportion? The Patel stayed the same proportion? And yet people voted differently. So how are you telling me that caste matters? What information do I get from knowing your caste as to what the election result will be?
So in plain and simple terms, you were saying that caste doesn't matter at all. It has not been one of the factors as it is made out to be. Are you saying that?
I didn't have the evidence. You give me the evidence. As I said, you give me the evidence, I will agree. As I said, my purpose as an economist, as a political scientist, etc., is show me the money, show me the evidence. And on this one, there isn't. On the other hand, I do think, so what determines votes? I think two factors, the economy being the most major one. That determines who gets elected, who doesn't get elected.
So it is basically roti, kapra and makan.
Absolutely. Has been the case, is the case.
Will be the case?
And will be the case. Look, so, you know, one thing I have to tell you, Wasbir, okay, you know, in India we think we are unique, right? I mean, you know, you scratch yourself, it's red blood. There's 7 billion people in the world who have red blood. Why should we be any different than anywhere else?
True, but that is the ideal situation, isn't it? But why are people distinguishing between the red blood? Why don't people segregate people, although everyone we know,
but the politicians do. The politicians do. Remember I said the voter doesn't.
So,
the politicians definitely do.
So, the question is, your book, being published by Amazon Washington, we are waiting for that book, Dr. Bhalla. My question is, 1952, you mean to say that it was the same scenario prevailing in this country, and 2019, is it going to be the same?
No.
I mean, you can't be kidding when you say that there has been no changes.
No. I think, very good question again. Look, 1952 to the mid-70s, that was the euphoria, we trusted nobody but the Congress, and we were a very poor country, we were a very illiterate country. You know, at the time of independence, only 25% of the Indian population was literate. So, information was very difficult. So, we voted because, you know, my parents voted and everybody voted for the Congress. Okay? I mean, and that actually is the case. You go back to the US, you know, federalist government in the US, George Washington, they stayed for 3 terms. Okay? And then the Democrat Republicans stayed for 6 terms. So this is, so if we now take from 1980 onwards, okay, and remember the mid-70s, we had the big oil crisis. So the world started to change in 1973 when oil prices quadrupled and globalization started to set in. Okay?
True.
So I think since then, I do think it's only the economy is stupid. And Bill Clinton said that, made that line famous, but I believed when he said it then in 1992, and I'm saying it now.
Now, one question I have to ask you, because I'm sure you've done a lot of research in writing this book, which is, I mean, it's not an easy task to write about the Indian elections. There can be a book on a single election, actually.
And there have been many.
There have been many. My point, which you know, draws my curiosity all the time, is that, okay, we had this one-party rule that seems to be absolutely over. We had the VP Singh experiment. We had I.K. Gujral, we had seen H.D. Devegowda, we had seen it all. And now even the NDA or UPA, even the last 2 governments, there was a conglomeration of political parties, everybody united, whether it is ideologically or otherwise, it doesn't matter as long as you are in power. Now, do you think the one-party rule is absolutely over in this country? What is your assessment?
I don't think so. But, you know, I think what is ideal and what India should move towards, and maybe is moving towards, is 2-party rule, or 2 or 3 parties. I think we have too many parties. It doesn't do India any good. I'm not a big believer that which is now being rumored about, that, coalition governments were so great.
Yeah.
I don't remember in 96 and 97 people saying that the coalition government was very great. Indeed, take the period of the Manmohan Singh, Sonia Gandhi period, maybe I should call it Sonia Gandhi Manmohan Singh period, that there were no economic reforms done. And indeed, the economic de-reforms that were done were many. So I don't think, remember I said at the beginning of the program, for me the economy is the most important and most important determinant. So I think it is not the case we had the first major reforms in 91, and that was barely a coalition government. Narasimha Rao had 242 seats, so it was very close to being a one-party rule. So,
and you mean to say that the same person who brought about economic reforms did not do any reforms when the UPA was in power?
Yes, that's the tragedy.
What was the problem?
I think, again, Wasbir, you're asking very good questions, and the questions I attempt to answer in the book. I think the problem was that Manmohan Singh was not able to influence economic policy. I think the NAC, National Advisory Council of Sonia Gandhi, was in complete control.
Now, you were at a very critical juncture in the Economic Advisory Council of Prime Minister Modi. It was just after demonetization that you joined, and you have also seen the GST being enforced and so on and so forth. But do you think those economic reforms, 4 to 5 mega economic reforms initiated by the Modi government, do you think they've started to pay dividends already?
I think so. The third mega economic reform is bankruptcy code.
Bankruptcy laws.
Yeah. And that is having a mega impact.
But a lot of people...
We all think, kal reform aaya, aaj sab theek ho gaya. Take for example demonetization. And they said, you haven't implemented properly. It could not have been implemented properly by any definition. Take GST.
But a lot of people say that, okay, you have not done any disinvestment. Whatever disinvestment you have done, it is again being purchased by all the government concerns, another government concern. So what kind of disinvestment you are doing? So a lot of questions the present government have been posed.
That's a very reasonable question, and especially, first of all, I just want to point out that disinvestment is a unique Indian term. Okay. Unique. It didn't exist in the English language before, prior to 1998, when Bajpayee brought it in. And this was, half-hearted privatization. Now, I think, look, the government has absolutely zero business in computers, in cement, in hotels, in airlines. And I think this change, or in banks. Remember, the whole banking nationalization was brought in by the ultra-socialist Indira Gandhi. So we have a lot. That's what I'm saying. There's so much low-hanging fruit. That's actually no business. And this government did not do privatization, or did not even do, you're very right, disinvestment. Though for the very first time in my memory, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's an active discussion about selling Air India, one of the worst.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So active discussion, they wanted to sell it, they haven't sold it. I think we just have to wait till after the elections, and let's see.
We'll have to wait to get results for a lot many things, Dr. Bhalla. We'll go for another short break. Stay on. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm still in conversation with economist Dr. Surjit Bhalla. Dr. Bhalla, the Sinophobia, we are obsessed with China. The world perhaps is obsessed with China. Even the US is obsessed with China. Forget about the US. We are the closest neighbor to Asian giants. Is it justified to be so worried about, oh, Chinese economy is growing, this, that, and all the time compare and contrast between the Indian economy and the Chinese economy? Oh, our population is going to overshoot the Chinese by 2050, so on and so forth. Well, how do you look at it?
I think it's absolutely appropriate to compare.
Appropriate.
Appropriate,
okay.
Correct. You must.
Okay.
And indeed, one of the major contributions when history is written of the Modi regime from 2014 to 2019 is that he's tried to change the mindset of the Indian public. And let me just very briefly go through that, because I think We've talked about other things, but that is, for me, the #1 achievement. And what's this mindset change? And it's related to China. That prior to 2014, the mindset in India was, we can't do it, China has done it, and we can't do it because we are a democracy. You know, we have to, China can order anything, this can happen, that can happen, but we can't because we are a democracy.
Yeah.
For the very first time, and it was at the initiative of the PM and the mindset, if China can do it,
why not
so
we?
can we. That is the major achievement. We must compare ourselves with China. Why not? And it is, you know, previously it was a matter of embarrassment for us to compare ourselves with China. No longer.
This brings me to the question. That China today is the manufacturing hub. Everything in the world is made in China and just sent out. My question is, what happened to the Make in India? Nobody is talking about it anymore. No. Or at least, I mean, that buzz around Make in India is just not there. What is your take on this?
No, that is one of the mega low-hanging fruits hanging around. And that is, we need to change our labor laws. Our firms are not allowed to grow because of the inheritance of the Swadeshi Jagran Manch and the Sonia Gandhi and Indira Gandhi, etc.
No, but can you blame it on the rivals? Can you blame it on people who do not believe in the system?
No, I think anybody who implements it is just, we need to change our labor laws, period. Whether Mr. Modi, if Mr. Modi supports the labor laws, I'm opposed to it. Okay? We cannot have these labor laws that we have in India and think of ourselves even pretending to become a modern economy, let alone being one. So it's high time we recognize we are in a global world. And the labor laws that we have, nobody in the world has these.
I'll give you an example. Take the case of an oil giant like Oil India Limited. It has got 10,000 employees. What is the production? It's just about 3 million tons, 1.5 to 3 million tons. Is the capacity.
So oil you shouldn't take because it's a capital-intensive production.
True,
Just look at
why can't... No, but for example, a multinational oil company like Cairns Incorporated has got about 300 permanent employees and producing 3 million tons. So what's going on? Is it because we don't have any other place to provide employment to the vast number because you have a different set of figures. You have a completely
You're putting the horse behind the cart.
You are saying that India just needs 50 lakh jobs a year, whereas a person like Raghuram Rajan said that India needs 1.2 crore jobs a year.
Yeah.
So why is this different?
I think that is a very easy question to answer. I think my good friend Raghuram Rajan has got it just plain wrong. He hasn't looked at the data. He's a macroeconomist. This is a micro issue. And you just look at the population in India, the population growth rate in India, and look at the number of people going into education. Once you go into education, you're not considered part of the labor force. So where he got this notion, so I think either Raghuram Rajan was thinking we should all not go into college and we should stay backward forever. He should be welcoming. People are going to school. They're accumulating human capital. Human capital makes them more productive.
I must end my interview by asking the author of Citizenry, Indian elections from 1952 to 2019. What is your prediction for 2019 and how are these elections going to be different?
I wish I knew. So for that, we'll have to wait. I mean, India is a dynamic, interesting country. There's lots happening, and we don't know as of this stage.
So are you saying that the results are going to be unpredictable?
No, but I'll let my book come out and then you'll know.
Absolutely. I'll give you that because your book has to come out. You don't want to spill the beans right now. Dr. Surjit Bhalla, thank you very much for being on.
My pleasure.